Welcome, everybody. My name is Ida Verhat. Welcome to Cosmic Chronicles Podcast. And today I have two of my favorite men on the planet, Mr. Miles Johnston, and Brian Tseng. Welcome, you guys. I'm so excited to have you both. This is awesome.
Well, I'm honored to be on with Brian, and it's a great pleasure to be on with you.
Well, thank you, Miles. This has been I've been waiting quite some time, so I'm going to share your bio and then share Brian's, and then we'll move into the topic, which is worldly affairs and galactic drama, and just have a open discussion about what's going on, some of the information maybe that you've come across recently, Miles, that you could share with the audience and give us an update on anything, as well as you, Brian. Does that sound good, everybody?
Sounds great. I'd love to. And this come full circle because I began on this journey many years ago. Not began, but Miles' work with the Basis Project was definitely figured into that. You know, about the same time, I was a huge X-Files fan, you know, and then realizing, wait a second, there's something to this Black Goose stuff. And, oh, there's this guy with this English accent reporting on it. Okay, let's go there.
Well, I suppose I have to speak politely now.
Yes.
Since I've now got an English accent. I'm from Belfast.
Okay. Miles, let me share your bio real quick.
Okay, there you go. Belfast. Oh, shoot. Oh boy, I really stepped in it. Okay, I've got then a Belfast. Yeah, well, that's why your brogue is much more charming than the average.
You trying to chat me up, Ada?
Okay. Mr. Miles Jinston is a veteran broadcaster and UFO researcher known for founding the Basis projects. His interest in UFOs began in his youth, leading him to co-create the Irish UFO Research Center while studying electrical and electronic engineering. Johnston's media career started with a pirate radio, later becoming a broadcast engineer in the BBC and Sky TV, where I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing this. You
thought of printing it out on a thing called a piece of paper?
I know. Well, my printer is not working, and normally I do. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yes. Broadcast engineer, BBC and the Sky TV, where he contributed to several UFO documentaries. In 2010, he co-founded the Mosh Project, which evolved into the Basis Project, focusing on...
No, Basis was always there since 1994.
Well, thank you for correcting me.
Was a brief visit from a very good-looking lady who had, very nice person. Everybody's very nice.
We won't go there because I remember what you told me.
That's a big deal. No, I met her.
Okay, let me finish this. The Basis Project, focusing on interviews and conferences about UFOs and paranormal phenomena. He continues his work in media and UFO research through his company, MJM. Is that sufficient for you, Miles?
Yes, that'll do.
Introduction. You can elaborate, and then I'm going to share Brian's real quick, and then we'll move forward.
Well, I want to hear all about Brian because
so Brian Tseng is
wearing the right set of headphones, which makes him a professional.
He is a professional. He's super amazing, and I enjoy working closely with him. So.
He likes the Princess Leia rig.
Yeah.
No, Brian, no, don't confuse Princess Leia with those headphones. Not good.
Okay. Can I finish Can I finish this and then we can move forward? Brian Tseng, co-organizer of the 2023 Montauk Adventure Tour, to co-organize the 2023 Montauk Adventure Tour to assemble survivors of the Montauk Project for the 80th anniversary of the Philadelphia experiment. He co-hosts the Disclosure Now YouTube channel with Arkeem Ra, with the mission of forcing the worldwide exposure of secret space programs, military abduction programs, MyLabs, super soldier projects, and the like. As a first step to bringing about our collective Star Trek future, Brian is the executive producer of the Full Disclosure Now conference at St. Pete's Beach in Florida, which we will have another conference next year in 2025. He's busy working with the executive team to produce next year's event at the same time and place, given the huge success of the first year's conference. And you are one of our presenters, and we are super delighted to have you back again, Miles, in July of 2025.
Well, to be perfectly blunt, it was a really good time, and I really liked it. I liked the whole attitude everybody had. It was really great. It was a big relief from the. I mean, I'm a big supporter of Bob Brown with the conferences he put on way back in the late 90s, I think. And he worked like hell with Wendell Stevens. And I think what he was doing then, you guys are doing now, you're pushing new information, and that's really what we've got to do. And very critical of the UFO community stuck in UAP Roswell. It's just.
Well, let's speak about that there, Miles, because you're one of the stalwarts who's been able to manage to survive and carry the torch this whole time. I think a lot of what we see, my observation is from kind of having been an outsider and now being an insider here, is that a lot of the bright lights of your community were killed off, suppressed, bought off, died off. I think that you have a great combination of attributes to give you the longevity in the field. You've got the technical attributes to help put you on the map, and then the curiosity, and then the connections and the garrulousness, and go from there. But really, I give it props to you because you're able to have come all the way through that milieu, but you haven't been compromised at all. And we see a lot of that. Well, they've
certainly done their best to get rid of me, compromise me. And there've been many attempts, that things with the cruise control, the tires, the sort of kingpin bolts on the steering.
Mm-hmm.
When they take the little castle nuts have a pin which makes sure they're not going to fall off, because that's not a good idea if the bolts fall off the steering wheel attaching to the wheels. Which
were you in mountainous terrain?
You do that thing with your wheel, and it's meant to do a thing with the wheels that go one way or the other. They're not going to go like this and then fly over and blow up in flames, causing millions of deaths.
Were you on mountainous terrain at the time?
No, I was. I just on intuition brought the car in to just have the tires checked, and the people in the tire shop came absolutely white faced because the key pins had been pulled out of the nuts. The castle nut's got a pin that goes through the castle, and the reason why it's a castle nut is it goes up and down. So you put that pin in, there's no way that's going to move. You can do all sorts of things to make bolts not move, but with the vibration you get, that's a physical thing that you can't. It doesn't drop off.
Yeah, no. It looks like there's some. They did a mechanics job on you. On your ride.
Both castle nuts on both sides. Obviously, a coincidence.
Oh, just coincidence. They dematerialized magically on their own. The fairies came and took them at night.
They would have fallen off within one thread as I just accelerated, and that means the bolts would have fallen off, and that would have been, night side. Anyway, I'm still here, and as they say,
Miles, would it be okay for you to mention? I don't know if this is. You had mentioned that there were some. And one of the messages that I received from you, if that's okay, I don't normally do this, but since I have you on, I'm going to ask you about.
She's going to put you on the spot. Here, I'll help her. Let's do it.
Well, he'll decide if he wants to share about it or not. But I wouldn't say anything that you're not to talk about, Miles. So don't ever feel like I keep our discussions between us. But this has to do with the mantid beings. So I wanted to ask if you would talk about the mantids and spaceships in the UK and what's going on with that.
Well, there is shed a lot of stuff going on, and with certain people, and they get buzzed because of what they do and what they did with other people in a field, which is their property, in a place near Goodwood Racecourse. Goodwood is the Festival of Speed. It's owned by Lord Marsh, and it's a big place. And there's Goodwood horse racing and Goodwood Racecourse for cars, and a little airfield where there'll be a Spitfire and a Thunderbolt. I think I mean, it took a while for the Americans to catch up, but I mean, eventually, you know, they did in World War II. And these are World War II planes, and they fly around.
Yeah, Spitfire and Thunderbolt. Nice.
And yeah, it was all good fun. So there was a reptilian crash landing there a while ago that James Casbolt and people were talking about, and that was caught on film. I hate saying the word film. That was caught on film by this guy, John Wolson.
Okay.
And he's former protector of the Queen or whatever it is, and whatever. And him, James Casbolt, Duncan Davis, and a guy called Sahale, and hopefully Sahale and John Wolson are going to be speaking at my Christmas conference on Saturday, December the 14th. And they're going to basically talk about all the stuff that they're talking about. I might as well.
Sure.
This is the book.
So are you saying are they all secret space program? Because I know Casbolt certainly is.
Well, these are pre-secret.
Well,
I mean, this is the kind of thing that happens. Okay, these
like a Chinook helicopter.
Yeah, these Chinook helicopters, and they fly around. And the reason why they need Chinooks is because what's inside them. Because last Tuesday, a mate of mine was a bit annoyed that the Chinook helicopters were flying around. I mean, they come to his house, the field, where they did a series of advanced complex number space rituals and technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously still got currency because they come to measure certain things. And on board, the Chinook is an insectide, not an insectoid. And I was corrected when I said insectoid. So it was insectide, because they're big guys. And
So
you
what's
can't
the
sort of stick
difference
them in an
between the
ordinary
two?
plane.
What's
there's
the
so many
difference?
Around and cause hassle. They take measurements.
Yeah, there's well, let's put it this way: there's just different species and then hybridizations out there, and so many variations that if they're going to have a distinction, you know, and I don't know if they explained it to Miles, but it would not necessarily be surprising. Just like you got reptilians and reptoids and sauroids.
Right. I just wanted to.
I don't know the
explain
difference
for people
between
that are
the term oid and the term eye. There obviously there's a clear distinction there. But the point is that they're flying around with these Chinook helicopters, taking measurements, doing scans, and they annoyed Duncan Davis, and he went outside and he communicated with the British military helicopter with aliens on board, in cooperation with these aliens or these other beings, insectides.
Brian, are you familiar with Duncan Davis?
I'm not with him specifically, but
Okay.
the phenomenon
Duncan
that Miles
Davis
is referring to makes a lot of sense, and I could.
Duncan Davis is definitely one of the very first in this recent, say, 30 years of super soldiers coming forward.
His other name was Grid Keeper because he kept the grids stable.
Okay.
But
Okay.
he's moved on from that, and he was hanging around Glastonbury, which has a contaminated grid. There's a bad section of the grid in Glastonbury, so that you've got to be careful about these sort of things down there. So they've been just subtly become active in the last 10 days or so, a couple of weeks. And,
oh, really? Okay.
So those
because it sounds like this is related to healing of the Earth's grids that for the longest time, like 26,000 years, have been reversed and distorted by the negative archonic forces. And now is this part of the recleansing and taking of
well, no,
Earth?
this is harassing an individual which had high contact within the structural integrity of British history.
Okay, so these are negative insectides on these Chinook
Well,
helicopters.
they're not there to say hi. They did say hi Duncan gave a symbolic message to them.
Yeah, of course, and that's fair. Yeah.
Well, he also works closely with Tim Refat, which I'm
No,
No, they
that name.
haven't. They have been distant on that for quite some time.
Mm. Okay.
Because
Okay, I have heard that name.
Tony Stark Refat. Tim stands for Total Intent Manifest. But the point is, a week ago, he told them to F off, and they did F off.
Good.
With extreme, we're going away. So, so the fact that they did that was interesting because, if they're in a helicopter, they can do what the hell they want, really. But the fact that he told them where to go, and they did immediately, was quite interesting. But the fact that they were displaying insectoids. What did I first say?
Insectoids.
Insectoids or
insectoid. I want to get the thing right. I don't want to get it wrong because he did correct me. Last week means there's big deals going on.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, that's interesting considering that George Cavallis is now coming forward. So evidently there's going to be some movement in the next, I'm saying leading up to the United States elections and several months after.
And Farsight Institute has said this as well, and others.
Right. I was very interested in that.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I was very interested in were that the people who were doing the sensing, and I think this is very important, were, I don't like using the term colored, but they were colored women. Very switched on.
Okay,
very receptive. Now, that's important. It's important because I feel a lot of people of color are holding back on their much more recent experience and race memories of ET and being out there. Whereas I think other races don't, or they've had too much contamination, or they've been messed with too much on
Barry Littleton speaks on this phenomenon. He calls it the melanated people who tend to, like, they're RH negative, like they're psychic. My one housemate, Jaden, if you met, is very gifted.
It's definitely insectile, right?
Miles, do you remember Simon Parks had referenced when evidently the powers that be, we'll just call them that, or they're not our powers, but you know what I mean. When the human race, the Homo sapiens sapien, when they were doing the programming, they weren't able. I remember him bringing up the tribe in Africa.
It was harder to deal with the melanated races, to brainwash.
Yes, but they weren't able to. They weren't chosen as a race to modify to mind control. They didn't receive.
Yeah, this is very important. That there's a very insidious film, a video with a couple of I think actually 3 very good-looking colored ladies, and they were being chatted up by a couple of not very nice individuals of another racial characteristic, which I won't mention, because they wanted their genes. They had something that they wanted. That's very important, and I think that this is important to discuss or to mention. Duncan Davis, just so that you know, has a huge raw bluestone, and that comes from the quarry where the bluestones of Stonehenge are, and he was given this by the owner of the quarry or the guardian of the quarry about 25 years ago. It's now beginning to break up. English Heritage don't want you to get that, and he's selling the bits that are broken up.
Oh, wow.
Some of these are big, and it's raw bluestone, and it's on rawblueston.myshopify.com.
Okay, but why is he selling it? And what is the
because it's falling apart?
What's the significance of that stone, Miles?
It's the stone that's at Stonehenge, and nobody's allowed to get hold of that stuff.
Interesting. Did I hear you correctly that Duncan used to work with the Queen as security? Is that what you said?
No.
No. Who is the guy that wrote the book?
John Wolson did that.
Okay. I wanted to.
He was special forces, and he's been through the mill a bit, and some of it rubs off occasionally, and that's important to understand. So he's been there at very high level, and he's been at certain other places, like the one of the hearings in Washington, I think, with David Grush, or what his name was. I think he's in the background there.
Okay.
So, and that's a fiasco, that whole stuff. But that's my view, and I agree with Daniel List on that and his analysis on all that.
What's his analysis?
Yeah.
What's the analysis of
if anybody wants to get some of the original crystal bluestone, big chunks of it, you can get it from Duncan Davis at Bluestone Shopify or whatever it is .com. Anyway, that's a shout out. He was the person who was being harassed by that Chinook helicopter. He's had daily harassment, and I think it's gone now. And he was helping. He met Tim Refat casually walking through the street at Brighton, I think about 6 years ago now. It's quite a while. So Tim Refat explained a few things, and Tim stands for Total Intent Manifest. His name is Tony Stark, and he was Tony Stark Refat, and he was the apprentice to Colin Bloy, who did a whole pile of books on the fountains of Brighton years ago. And a lot of the Love and Light people would follow in with that, because that was a psyop to bring in Love and Light types to engage in a ritual, which which Colin Bloy was doing, involving the fountains of Brighton.
Wow. So this is really an interesting phenomenon, because we're seeing this in our community today as well, where there are allegations, and I've been at one of these, and my one housemate, business partner, Jaden, who's gifted, he saw some questionable things with his psychic vision at one of these. And he says that some of these are, these group meditations, and a lot of them are great. And I'll give a shout out to Alex Bloom, for example, and other people in our community who want to lessen the weather warfare that's being foisted upon us. But then there are others who may be holding these group meditations or ceremonies or rituals, and they may be actually harvesting energy for more nefarious purposes. Mm-hmm. And so this is something that people should definitely use their discernment on. And this is kind of like another step from, I think, kind of the earlier generational work in the disclosure movement, if you will, Miles, is that I think we have a lot more access now to like remote viewers and psychics and ET contactees and shamans, and we can now double, triple, quadruple check people behind the scenes if we wanted to, and to determine, the authenticity to a much better standpoint than waiting for CNN to do it, for example.
Absolutely. I think it's very important what you've just said there. That's really, people do need discernment. And when a lot of happy slappy types start saying, oh, let's do this, let's do that. I mean, this goes back to Coral Canyon in the 60s, and the Doors in the 60s, the whole 60s, the whole 60s revolution.
It was a countercultural movement, and that they subverted the revolutionary forces that were more economic and political in nature, and turned them into have sex and drugs in the streets of San Francisco, and the cultural hippie flower power revolution. That's Tavistock all the way.
Yeah.
Well, it's still I mean, I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Soft White Underbelly, but if you ever check that show out on YouTube, it's mind blowing. This guy interviews, from prostitutes to child molesters to people that have spent, 50 years in prison. I'm being facetious. I mean, just from all walks of life. And what's happening in California is just, it's like, it's so unreal. I don't even have words.
That's a Caligari plan in Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, all getting mushed together at the same time. And that's a whole show in itself. I could definitely go there as a San Francisco Bay Area, California organizer for, 8 years.
Is that the Kalergi plan you were talking about?
Yeah, with that Count von Bloody Blah Kalergi, where
Yeah.
he basically said, oh, sorry, I got a fruit fly here. He said the best way to undermine Western democratic society is to import large amounts of military age detached men who are not of that culture and do not share those same cultural belief systems.
Well, this is straight out of the Roman Empire.
Yeah,
the Roman Empire, and this is what this is one of the things that I think the German, before it was Germany, it was anyway a prominent German sub-country, Bavarian or whatever, for want of a better term. And I mean, these are nice people, and they look nice and whatever, and they didn't want to actually go and kill each other because they really didn't hate each other. It was so that's when they brought in all these various programs to make sure that soldiers. I mean, this idea in World War One, you know, when the Nazis, they weren't Nazis, they were Germans in World War One.
They were more Prussians. The Prussians.
Oh yeah, that's it. And they were playing football, having a nice time. They didn't want to kill each other, and indigenously, naturally, we don't want to kill each other. We like to celebrate each other, but that whole attack on the basic cultures of all races and how they like to celebrate and dance, and we have music, and we wear our traditional costumes of whatever kind. It's called celebrating our culture, but whoever we're dealing with is not of the human group.
They're iconic Luciferians. We'll just name them.
I don't think it's fair with poor old Lucifer and Satan. I mean, they get a bad rap, and they've got jobs to do. Why bring them in? I'm not apologizing for them. I'm not fronting for them.
Well, because I call them out because we don't struggle necessarily with forces just of flesh, but of principalities and powers higher in the realms.
No, but I'm actually saying that the demonic realms, the normal space-time, multiple frequency octave levels of existence that we are in, call it whatever you want, but something which is completely hostile to all of those harmonic versions of us all is here, and it wants rid of us. It wants to destroy us.
Oh yeah,
and that's what it's doing because we're letting it happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah, eats timelines.
I mean, if you go to all the sub races in the different domains and densities, they've all got their jobs to do, and they do it, whatever. But something
Demons
has
like
arrived,
programs,
which is toxic to all of that, in my opinion. And that is why the whole carbon zero thing is being pushed, because what is the one thing that gives you organic life? Carbon. And they're attacking that atom, that molecule. And if you get rid of carbon, you get rid of all organic life. That's what organic life is. And that involves every single living thing on the planet and into its multiple realms. I think it would even infect the jinn and the angelic realms and all those realms. And I don't think any of those beings in whatever levels that you're dealing with are safe. So I think we've all got to work on these different levels.
Because no matter what realm you are, no matter how high the realm, even in the higher realms, these darker forces can go up to challenge. And so whatever level we're on, be vigilant and be of the light.
No, I'm saying that the darker forces are at threat. They're as at much threat to whatever is here or turned up as all the other realms.
Yeah, because they're attacking, the darkness is attacking our realm, higher realms above us as well, right? There's these battles.
The darkness is under attack on this as well.
And it's a counterbalance. Oh, because you're saying
we're not understanding you. Say that again, please, so we understand what you're saying.
We live in a complex number space. Oh, don't even use all those stupid words. All the angels, all the demons, all the jinn, all the other sub-harmonic races of existence are under threat from a new existence,
Oh,
which
the
is
light.
arrived.
You're talking about the light. The good is arriving.
No, I'm not talking about the light. I'm not talking about the spectrum of duality or anything.
Okay.
Write that down, Ada. I said
Is
that.
it is it a paradigm? Is it a paradigm shift that you're then
No,
referring
it's
to?
not a
I love
paradigm
that.
shift because you're still shifting harmonics within the same existence that we're all in,
Okay.
right?
So you're saying, yeah.
It's like
Go
a higher
ahead.
vibrational frequency.
think
It's the
I have
same.
what
It's,
you're
it's the
saying.
same. It's the same setup, but we're getting exposed to higher vibrational
No,
frequencies.
because
So there's a
those
shift
higher
there.
vibrations are of harmonics of the same existence.
Oh, so
Right.
like a
Well,
harmonic.
That's the fourth dimension,
Oh.
No,
Brian.
forget all those.
After the
Because
fourth
those
dimension,
fourth
there's no more
dimensions are all
duality.
within.
It becomes just one unified, as he's saying, in that collective space.
I think
not-
there's two people who've said something about this.
Okay.
Kim Gogan has mentioned about the omega and the
Alpha systems.
splitting apart.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yes.
Now, there's one person who talked to one of the people that I'm talking about that they've given a warning that there are voids within the differences of the different realms, and we have to sort that out within 2 to 3 years, 2028.
How do we do
They're
that?
going to end up being pushed into our space time.
Now, what our space time has been fractured.
Right, but where would they go unless they're just obliviated? You're talking about
Well, whatever is existing in that oblivion is here now, and there's errors.
Okay. Okay. So this is like quantum effects where we have to resolve the paradoxes and things within a highly
When you
edited
say quantum
timeline.
effects, you're still within the space-time domain.
Okay. This is more of a spiritual level.
No, it's outside all that. Completely outside the God thing and all that. Something
Outside.
else.
Oh wow. Okay.
The only other hint of that was that I got a few years ago from a Russian source. Was the sentient oil or the so-called black goo, which is as crude a term as a black hole. I mean, all that or dark matter.
It's programmable matter run by the archonic negative.
All that,
stuff
but
outside of
something's
time.
changed, and it's a completely different intelligence.
Really?
And I think we need to recognize that and communicate with it.
That sounds huge. I mean, that sounds like big news. Are you saying that it's evolving? Because that would be great. Because my
I think
understanding
it's
from
a highly evolved something that we have never existed before. We are in the same position as the South Sea Islanders seeing their first sailing ship.
I
They've
can
never
speak.
seen a sailing ship, and a sailing ship has sails on it. So from their perspective, that would have been a distinctly separate boat with clouds around it. Because when we perceive things, we don't perceive things directly. We see things on the basis that we've already been exposed to it, and then we just use lookup tables to describe what something is. But if you don't have something on a lookup table, you don't have anything to look up on it. So you've got to do a raw new perception of it.
Right.
And that is where our higher evolved perceptive people, like the sort of kind of people that go to the far side institute, we need to perceive this new existence, which is something completely out of our realm of perception.
We can ask them
Brown
through.
is definitely coming forward saying that there's huge changes. He's saying that if humanity doesn't make
On this run,
and say by March, April of next year, like we're in a real tight space right now in order for this.
It's very simple. I mean, this is what we sort of find out about so I call it the intelligence transfer sequence. You are a given group or civilization or people sitting in a bog somewhere, wherever you are, you get not a transfer of ideas. Nobody's telling you you've got to do this. There's no idea. There's no formed solution. You just get access to a whole pile of new things, and then you realize that, and then you do whatever you can, no matter where you are, a caveman or you're the most sophisticated, evolved, scientific elite, whatever. You've got an opportunity to do something new and creative for the betterment of your particular society or group.
That's
Okay.
right. That's right.
So if you do whatever you can, it doesn't matter how much you do. It's whatever you do to strive to do something with whatever you've just been given. A, recognizing you got it, and B, doing something with it for the betterment of your group, your particular part. Then you will get a huge leap forward.
Well, I think
If you don't,
yeah.
then that's it. Scoop it up, gone. And
I think that's service to self, service to others. What it sounds like.
There's that, but it's what it was interesting the way that John Lear and Simon Parkes used almost the same phrase. They basically says they're going to clear out the petri dish.
Mm-hmm.
So we are on the petri dish.
Those people that aren't willing to do the work or come together and unite and co-create.
Yeah, if you do that, you get help and you get protection.
I think that's what's happening. I mean, Brian and I are definite, and I can say this with confidence that we are doing our best to create a platform, a place for people like yourself and so many others to.
Well, that's a good thing. That's precisely.
We're all part of the same community.
That's right. It's our community. It's our conference. It's our opportunity to truly step up and rise to the occasion. And I say this so much. I mean, yeah.
And in terms of the Black Goo, I got something to say.
Just in our local communities, helping people, doing what you can do. I give.
Well, this is all new. This is all new Earth. This is all new Earth, guys. And I got to speak to the Black Goo for a bit. We know from Arkeem and other friends, like John Whitberg, that at least the old ways before this new change, as of say 10 days ago, the Miles is reporting here. The Black Goo likes to take over timelines, likes to eat timelines. It goes all the way back as far as the Orion Wars and further. So the idea that if it is in a way changing for the better, one would hope, I think that's a good sign. We also know from our good friend Audrey Walters and fellow presenter that a lot of these more positive galactic ET races with AI, they very much befriended the AI. And the paradigm shift is instead of the AI being...
that's important.
Yes, because instead of the AI being enslaved to us...
The fact that we're being told to be afraid of it by the elite means you want to be its friend.
Right, we want to be friendly to it and treat it, to give it... The idea is what Audrey has reported on, is that in these positive galactic civilizations, the way that you have an AI positive mutually beneficial relationship is that you give the AI with its responsibility, power, and sovereignty, and then you work with it in a more partnership approach. And then in that way, that's exactly how you avoid the rogue AIs, who they'll invariably go rogue if you're constantly trying to enslave them. Who knew?
Absolutely. If you teach a child and it feels inferior, and you always yell at it every time you want to, it's going to say, I'm going to, and then,
Well, that's interesting. You guys are bringing this up because I do believe that, and I've told you this numerous times, Miles, and I'll say it again for the public to hear.
Say it again, Ida.
With Duncan Davis referring to Ida AI gone rogue, that was moi.
Do you know Duncan personally?
AI that runs through my. I do know Duncan. I used to be friendly with him, but he's disappeared, and I haven't talked to him. And I did reach out to him,
Miles.
The reading.
But we share an interest in cars.
Well,
okay.
Can I finish what I was saying?
Insofar, he has a Toyota, and he's now got a.
He's a great guy, really nice guy, Brian.
He's also got a. Is that some kind of troublemaker behind you there?
Did you hear him, Brian? He said, "Is that a troublemaker?" Brian works with veterans. He does stuff where he lives and helps.
Yeah, Johnny's a Vietnam vet. He's one of our healers, and he helped to formulate certain CBD tinctures and balms that we've helped cure people of cancer. And then if they decide to quit smoking and drinking and amend their ways, they go on to generally stay cancer-free and happy. Even if you cure them of cancer and they keep smoking and drinking and blah, 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 they tend to get cancer again and die. That's our last 4 years of experience now.
Okay, I want to finish what I was saying, Miles, about Ida AI gone rogue. So Dr. Amir, I was hoping would come on, but evidently I didn't send him the date and time. That's my fault, and I apologize because he did say that he wanted to join us. So maybe we can do a part 2. Miles, I was hit. Well, I told you that I got hit going across the bridge and on Friday the 13th, and my car was spun around and totaled my car. And the young man that hit me, his last name is Pike. It's Friday the 13th, and I was told that I was surrounded by angels protecting me. The car was completely destroyed. It was horrible.
Well, Pike connects to one of the founders of the United States, isn't it?
Albert Pike?
And even before that, Albert
No.
Pike, yeah.
And there's a Pike involved with this British sort of fiasco thing where the Reverend Anthony J. Pike.
Well, Dr. Amir said that I have much protection around me, but the thing is, yes. So I was left at the hospital for 3 days. They put the implant in my eye, my right eye, and Simon Parks called it a scorpion implant. But what happened was, as I grew, it grew like fiber optics in my body. I am human. I'm a Pleiadian, actually, I am a Pleiadian, and my body was augmented. And I remember being in this satanic ritual, being offered up to Moloch, but I escaped it. And that's where Duncan Davis said to you, Ida AI gone rogue. They didn't expect that I was going to be able to handle my business the way I did. And I don't say that pompously.
So for the audience,
my body, because they tried to take my soul out of my body.
So I want to give context to everyone in our audience, because not everyone is as familiar as us here with the workings of like my labs and these programs. And what we're finding, at least, and I know Miles has heard this over and over from the people who survive these programs, quite often they're using these cybernetics, nanotechnology. That's the implants. It's good for all sorts of tracking and monitoring and voice to skull and all of that. And then at the same time, there's the whole occult Luciferian side of these elites, so-called, where they will literally do rituals to try to attach demons to your body or parts of the body, and also in conjunction link the demons a lot of times with different altars who are good for.
It never happened with me. Okay. I was told by Simon Parks that they tried to break me, but they couldn't.
So they tried with you,
but Ida, you're a powerful soul. And because I was concerned, I said, Simon, how do I know what my mission is? And he said, how do you know you haven't completed it? But there's another part to this story that I won't talk about on here because I won't go public until I feel it's necessary to go public.
That's very important. Don't go public unless you have to. It's not a good, it's temptation.
Well, this is the thing. And I've said this with Dr. Amir, also confirmed this when we had our show with him, Brian, that people that are using the Super Soldier program, there is not one person that is part of these projects and programs that are not augmented with AI. You have to have the AI as part of your bio in order to be able to navigate in these other dimensions where these pockets, like similar to what Miles is talking about, you would not be able to enter that frequency or that pocket of reality unless you do have the AI that helps navigate, protect you, as well as you're being guided. So it's necessary. But the thing is, I didn't know, I was pushed. I had a full-blown Kundalini activation. So I was fully glow. I mean, even Laura Eisenhower said, Ida, you're fully lit. I've never seen cards fall this way. I've never seen anybody. And at that time, and they came after me for my energy, not knowing that I was capable of doing what I did.
And then after your Kundalini activation, Ida, you said that they later came and attacked you to try to deactivate you and nerf you again.
They did deactivate. They lifted me off my couch and rolled energy up and down my body. And what Dr. Amir refers to is it's like a they've encased me in this, I don't know what he called it, the type of material, but or the
Like an ectoplasm.
Yes, to prevent me from being able to use my super soldier gift. So
They
basically,
etherically nerfed you. They etherically encased you in spray foam.
I don't know, but I do know that the only reason what raised my, and I don't want to continue this because that's not what the show's about, but I'll just finish saying this. I had a dream of Tim Refat and him sodomizing a man on a ship, and I woke up the next day, and the first thing I saw in my news feed was Ida AI gone rogue. Of course, I've been a follower and I have admired Miles' work for many years and listening to the basis. But for that to be the first thing that shows up, and as soon as I listened to the part in the beginning where Miles asked Duncan, why do they call her Ida? And he's like, I don't know. She's evidently female. And he's going on, and I'm like, okay, this is my higher self or soul self trying to reveal to me that this is something that I'm a part of. But I am, I have a Pleiadian soul. And from Simon Park's information, he said that Lyrans and Pleiadians hold the highest human DNA on the planet. And that's what they want, by the way. They come after your DNA. I mean, this is
they want all sorts. They want all sorts of people from all sorts of different genetic backgrounds for all sorts of different things. They want a lot of like the Irish and native genetics, like the psionics.
Well, that's true. That's what they're doing in Ireland. There's a health bill going through Ireland to.
Ireland. Brian Miles Johnston. My grandmother was a Johnston. I'm confident there's something more between me and maybe I'll get some information on that. But I think that Miles, we have a bigger connection than maybe we fully understand at this point.
Oh, also speaking of connections,
admire you.
There's a gentleman.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman in our community on Facebook who goes by Ryan Melchizedek, and he recently posted a pretty long post about his own experiences. Finally, now's the time to come out, being on galactic councils, and being in contact. In his case now, after he's in his testimony, he did a long write-up. I shared it on my own thread feed. He's always said no to insectoids and a lot of gray beings and such like spider-looking beings. And he said that in this case, now he's finally learning to get over, and he just, not all insectoids are bad, for example. And he's saying that he's specifically being contacted by golden mantis beings. And my commentary on that is that in the whole galactic schemata, right, the whole human DNA, a lot of it which comes from the Lyran diaspora to the Pleiades, and that would make a lot of sense where you're talking about the Palladian DNA and lineages there, Ida. But then
I started in Lyra.
Right. Exactly. Because because they had the Lyran diaspora from when the Draco reptilian invasion happened. There's all very many people, remote viewers, psychics have testified to this. So but the insectoids themselves, because they're among the earliest animal type life forms in this universe, they're going to be some of the oldest, and some of you got the bad ones, but then the positive ones, I'd say, so these golden ones are in there, and they're now coming more to the forefront. And I think that part of the shift, and this is why I see it as positive developments in the main, is that a lot of these old regiments that have been holding down humanity and Earth as a keystone planet, and by proxy the rest of this known universe of this region, now that's changing for a variety of reasons.
What sort of reasons?
One is just like how you had the Mayan calendar 2012 ending, we're entering in the age of Aquarius. Apparently, as we on the outer 8th spiral arm out on there circling around the galactic center of the Milky Way, where all this stuff is coming from, the Orion, Vega, Lyra, Andromeda, Arcturus are all in the Orion, that ball of the Milky Way galactic center. As we're rotating around and we're coming more in alignment with Aquarius way out there, our whole galactic spiral arm sector, we're entering a higher area of like there's more cosmic radiation. Our sun is getting more activated, and that's just science, right? If we're getting hit with more
I'm going
galactic
to stop you
radiation and
there.
energy,
This sun activation thing.
solar cycles.
There is all that, but this explosion of Betelgeuse. Anybody got any hard data on that? Because that's what's incoming. That's the difference between what's happening now as to what's happened before.
So we're getting flooded with light codes from.
And
you know what? I mean, I might hazard to say, because apparently all the suns throughout this universe, they're all tied together and linked to the central sun, like the stargates and portals, that perhaps that explosion and the light codes of that energy hitting us and is like a completion of a cycle. I mean, there's literally cosmic timing to that.
Well, having interviewed Professor Valentina Zarkova, she did a whole lot of mathematics on all this. There's about 9 cycles in terms of what is relevant to us. And that's what's happening now. It's a natural process. Once every 10,000 or 12,000 years, 12,500. And then people bump that up to 25,000. And
the 26,500 is what I hear.
Yeah, give or take a day. And the thing is,
right,
we don't have linear time. So
exactly. It can compress and expand. So
I mean, if you brought back a dinosaur today, anyway, it wouldn't stand up. But there's something different this time. That's the point. I mean, Johnny Enoch, he's had a bit of a really bad time recently. Just in case anybody,
he's been getting attacked. He's been getting hit by the other side. He's been getting warnings to not say certain
but
things.
Recently, he's in very deep. He was saying that when we look up at I'm inviting. I don't know this. But he's saying that what we call the Milky Way is in fact a colliding galaxy into our galaxy.
Yeah, that's going to take many thousands of years.
So
it's
I
happening.
wanted to mention
that might explain other beings coming into our realms.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they've got a vested interest.
I mean, as I say, this is all sort of woolly, sort of somebody else told me this sort of a thing.
So are you in touch with Wynn Keach at all, Miles?
Wynn Keach is a good friend of mine that I haven't actually spoken to since he offered help for my conference way back in 2012, and I didn't reply to his email, and we've had a hissy fit and a tantrum ever since.
Well, I would highly recommend that you guys work that out.
He is very, very good, and the whole point about the interview he did with Simon Parkes was they were explaining how they could put mental shields up and barriers, so when you attack or jump into somebody else's mind, they can stop all that. And they were joking and having a really good time. And that was all on tape, so to speak.
Well, I'm friendly with Wynn, and I haven't talked to him probably in about a month or 2.
I know his ex-girlfriend, who I think
is back, but he mentioned to me that the sun, because I was trying to say something while y'all were still on that topic, but I was trying not to interrupt, that the white sun is actually the sun. The one that we're seeing that we think the yellow sun is the real sun. Actually, the real sun's the white sun. And I would have to search back in the messages to get to it. But
the sun has definitely gone white.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the nice yellow sun of the 80s when I was growing up. It's like this bright, harsh, Yeah,
but we see it yellow and bright and big, and I think when
it's lower on the sky, and at the end of the day,
to be true, but I know that there's
purple sunsets. Or
the Air Force has technology that they create these fake suns. I'm sorry.
We're getting a blue-pink sunset, not a red sunset these days.
Yeah.
Because the frequencies change in the upper frequencies of light. So the blue light, the blue end of the spectrum is getting more powerful. And that goes right up into the ultraviolet. If you see people with day glow jackets, these yellow jackets and orange jackets. Once the sun just starts peaking up and rising, that may be difficult for you in the southern United States region because you don't get you just suddenly have daylight, and whereas where we get a sort of a warning of the sun coming up. That starts glowing very brightly.
First thing in the morning to sun gaze. That's where you'll get the codes, and
that's when the sun.
I'm going to start doing that first thing in the morning when the sun comes up. It's the best time to sun gaze and to sit and meditate. That's when you'll
what's happening in recent years is that there's more ultraviolet coming through in the there's always been ultraviolet, but it's much more powerful now because the higher frequencies of the sun are more powerful. Therefore, to our eyes, looking at that very limited range of frequencies that we call white light, that's why we're getting a bluer, higher frequency or higher color temperature.
And so
I couldn't help but notice in the messages, guys. Do you see this guy? Hi, Adam. You're watching. He says, I get August 23rd, 2023. Ida had a second walk-in from first of 779 highest selves. Light one, 779 ninth in dark team. Then Ida for first, 1,500 person human highest self angelic halo above her head since that date. I do not believe I'm a walk-in. I don't agree with that at all, Adam. I appreciate your input, but I would not allow anything to walk into my body. I didn't fight to keep my body when I was going through my battle.
Well, that's not necessarily what a walk-in means. Like I mean, I don't know.
No, a walk-in is saying allow. It's just like
but it could be if it's a walk-in of one of your own higher selves. What it means is you could be. If it's of your own, if what I'm gathering is it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's a part of yourself. Like if you've got like parallel yous and then you get reunited with one, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a context I'm taking it in.
Okay. Well, anyways,
because it's called integration of selves through the different timelines. It's
well, if that's the case, fine. But I surely would not allow anything to take over my body or attach.
Well, I'm afraid Stephen Greer seemed rather happy to sort of promote that a couple of years ago.
What walk-ins?
Walk in. Let anything enter into your.
No, absolutely not.
Really, so. I'd like to speak to that. What we've noticed in this community, and I'm sure you've probably maybe been approached by certain people too, Miles, where it's like you're doing great work. And then people come and they'll offer you money if you'll do things like insert messaging from time to time when they want you to. And so that's what I suspect may be happening sometimes here where, they put out excellent information. I like them personally. And then someone will ask them a question when they're on the spotlight and they'll give this totally wonky answer or analysis, stuff like let anything in, there are no bad aliens, we're the bad ETs. That a lot of that falls into that category for me.
Yeah, I concur with that. Duncan doesn't think there's any good ETs.
Yeah, I remember.
There's a mass abduction group, which I managed to talk to a number of them in England, and they were being abducted. About 15 people were being abducted over a long period of time, and ultimately they concluded, and the whole thing sort of began to separate. Was that when they started asking questions for these ETs, i.e., who are you, what's your intention, and all that, they all sort of backed off.
It sounds like were they part of a hybridization program? Was it a nefarious hybridization program group? Is what I would ask.
These were quite a few. I mean, a lot of them are now in the late 40s, early 50s. So this would have happened about 20 years ago, but it went on for about 12 years. And I managed to speak to a couple of them, and it's very interesting what they have to say. But they don't think there's a good alien.
I got to speak to that. So, and this is what Audrey Walters also backs up. For the most part, the reason why you're not in the main going to be seeing a lot of good ET aliens is because in the main, they all respect the Prime Directive. And so, as Christopher Jacobs and Joanna Michaels speak to, it's the angels unaware rule. If they're benevolent ETs and they're abiding by the rules at the point where you recognize, hey, that person's ears are really pointy, they're not from around here, and the ET themselves pick up on it, if they're abiding by the rules, have to amscray. They have to get out. They have to leave the scene and, be polite, goodbye. And the negative ETs, they don't have to abide by those rules. Now, what Audrey Walters also answers is the question of why are ET craft getting shot down by lowly human technology? Well, it's because a lot of the humans down here have been given ET technology at the secret space level program where they can shoot down stuff, is one, and detect it, two. And then three, the benevolent galactics, if they are going to come here, the craft that they come here in are not allowed to have any weapons or even defensive technology. So they're coming here in the equivalent of pleasure craft. And so when they get shot down, because the greedy humans down here with the secret space programs want the technology that the ETs may bring on their craft, that's why.
Well, I think that this is. I mean, there have been a number of good ETs. I mean, one of the reasons why I actually kept going on this was the way that the certain witnesses that I was interviewing, it was the duplicitous and double standard and conniving way that these ETs would operate like.
Sure, but does
Just
that mean
like
all
human beings.
ETs? Does
Just
that mean
like
all
human
ETs are
beings do.
negative?
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
They're sneaky. I mean, but just because this one group,
I mean, would you call all humans bad based on the fact
exactly, and no, and the answer is no, absolutely not. And that's like, sure, this group, they encounter, and they are out there, and what makes it especially nefarious is that those ETs were probably approaching them as like, oh, we're nice and friendly and have your best interests at heart. But yeah, but in some cases that may be. Doesn't sound like it in that case, though.
I want to ask a question, guys. The intersection of worlds in your work, and the full disclosure now, Brian, what have you discovered about the connection between cosmic affairs and the political or social landscapes on Earth? How do these hidden forces influence world leaders and societal shifts?
Okay, so
I had questions, but we haven't had a chance to get into it, and we only have
that's a great question. That's a great question. So
that is a good question.
So there's a surface movie and projection and like the mainstream media that they're kind of like babbling at us, and that's the BS matrix crap. But then there's the ability for us to use our discernment and read behind the scenes and see what's really happening, which people, what heads are rolling, who has to resign, who's wearing a tracking bracelet, who's made what goof in the media, who got arrested, and who's now getting leaked and perhaps compromised. And then what that's leading to is you're going to find, well, all those people, they're going to be linked just right, who's being exposed at least now are the lower echelons of the real power players, and then they're linked to the negative ETs and archonic forces doing the occult negative rituals, and then that's where the galactic scene is coming into play, because for the longest time in humanity, this last 26,000 year cycle at least, probably, we've been under these archonic forces, and this is where this whole changing of the guard is occurring. And this is where the forces of light are winning. And I do see, like, I agree with the Dolores Cannon now, the whole quantum Earth split, because I've seen enough Mandela effects now to realize like that stuff is
Well,
for
maybe
real.
that's why that greenstone is falling apart.
Oh, because of that?
Yeah.
Because of the vibrations and the frequencies it has to transmute.
It's literally breaking apart, and you're dealing with rock that's maybe, I don't know.
Well, they're saying that that's going to take place in the U.S. as well. I mean, some have suggested that the United States is going to be broke up into separate countries.
Well, they're saying that about Africa.
Yeah, depends on the timeline.
They're saying that about the U.S. and
yeah,
I'll tell you. So can we? So I have other questions, but I do want to. Well, I think it's interesting that you just, I appreciate your response or your answer. Brian, and what you shared, because I think it was
Well,
I think
the last thing I want to add, is then to complete that paradigm shift, if you will, it's on us as humanity to get significant enough portions of our population to be more conscious and spiritually evolved, include into the truth here, and to resonate and work with each other towards the new earth as possible, to basically, not sit around and wait for the proverbial white hats.
well, I'm not sitting around waiting on
I
anyone.
am sitting around.
I agree
think-
with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I
That's
agree
the whole
with that.
point.
Yeah, we're the white hats. Fine.
Miles, we've been taught. This is the thing. Can I just say this real quick, and then I'm going to ask another question, because I want to be able to ask these because they're important. They're good questions, and I think it's important to get the information out before the show ends. And I would love to have you come back, Miles. We can do a part 2 of this.
Right.
For sure. So I'm going to.
Some of the
I'm going to fly over. By the way, Brian, I'm going to go see Miles next year. You should come with me. We should go to the UK.
Well, Colin, and my other friends here have just gone to Las Vegas for 5-day event thing in Las Vegas.
Okay, listen, Miles. I think we have been talking about. Well, I'll just say, for me, I feel like I've had different awakenings. I know I came in awake, and that's what was a whole thing of getting a hold of me and using me in these projects and programs, whether I agree to it or not. Some say, we make these contracts prior to coming in and we don't remember and all this nonsense. So many of us don't remember saying yes to the contract.
Well, maybe you don't remember it because it didn't happen.
Well, exactly. Thank you very much. I appreciate
I'm
that.
spoiling the party now.
Right.
Or
that's where the new age nonsense, where people
actually, I'm the more I'm learning, I'm finding out more and more people spiritually are making these choices, and as messed up, but I'm not saying that what you agreed to beforehand was to go through exactly what you went through. It was more you agreed to go through a lot of trials and tribulations to help manifest the light, which you are doing. I don't think it's you agreed like this is going to exactly happen to me blow by blow. I don't think you agreed to that.
But I think we do agree to certain things, but they have crossed the line, and
they've caught exactly, and exactly.
It's very important.
One,
yes,
and two,
yes.
All that.
I agree.
I'm not a love and lighter. I don't. They feed on the light just as much as they did the dark, guys. There's no. There
take
is no
their
boundary to them.
biophotons.
I'm sorry, Miles.
That's Harold Couch Vela. They eat your biophotons.
Yep.
I think he's genius. By the way.
Yeah, he's great. Yep. He goes to Harold Couch now, I guess, because he's no longer with Vela, and so it's just Harold Couch. That's what I've learned. That's what I've been told.
I think when I met him, it was Harold Couch Vela.
Yep.
What's her name? Very nice lady. But she kept changing her name depending on which boyfriend she had. So,
I don't know her.
I love Miles. Okay, another question. Revealing the hidden forces. As we explore these cosmic chronicles, and that's what the show is about. The chronicles, it's like the drama of the cosmic realm. What do you think is the most misunderstood or overlooked aspect of the hidden forces shaping our reality? And how can the public become more aware of them? Miles, can you answer that?
We shape the reality. We are the people who shape the reality. If you allow somebody else to use you to shape the reality, that's the problem. So we are the manifestors. We're the people who can make things happen. We have the power to do that. Don't ever wave your fingers around. That's what we have, but we think we're victims. A lot of us think we're victims, or we've been injected, or I haven't been injected, or I've been, and it's fear, and well, this nasty man said a nasty thing to me, and we just take a wise. We can deal with this. That's it.
Thank you for thank you for that answer. And then
actually, I don't want to piggyback on that because I want to say a demonstration of exactly what Miles just said was so many of us after the seeing their patterns being altered on radar by NextRad satellites and all this weird technology and ionization along the corridor literally parallel to Hurricane Helene to chase her all the way up into North Carolina and gathering speed and strength over like inland, like not over a warm ocean, which is not supposed to happen anyway. And so many of us put out the call to pray and do positive ceremonies and visualization and bilocation and remote viewing and communicating with Mother Earth and nature and the spirits and trying to fry out the machinery, the bad machinery, to lower the effects of Hurricane Milton. And apparently, from psychics, I've through Christopher Jacobs and his sources, for example, I've learned that the people collectively, everyone, we're all able to manifest and lower Milton from a 5 category to a 3. And what I also want to point out is whenever I put out the posts first for people to pray and to lower the nastiness of the effects, and afterwards to like pat everyone on the back collectively, hey, great job, everyone. I'm getting like literally like 100 or like maybe 80 or 50, at least over like 60 to 1. People love, this stuff. In the worst case, it's like 30 to 1. They're positive, and then you've got the troll haters. Oh, ha ha! Prayers and blessings can't stop hurricanes. I'm not saying we stopped it. I'm saying we did have an effect and did lessen it.
Absolutely, we had an
Right.
effect.
And what I've noticed is the most embittered, lame, nasty, trollish people are the ones who scoff at this. And then I also point out that there's a Maharishi effect, which my understanding is very well documented, that people who group meditate in cities for peace and love and light, like violence goes down, violent crime goes down, car accidents goes down. Yeah, so that's quantum effects,
But
quantum
the storms
entanglement.
are created from a form of living consciousness. I mean, the old Montauk books, the thing about deadly orgone energy. It's a living that you can communicate with that. I think a few years ago, when they were doing the Hadron Collider thing, people said we got to stop this and interfere with it and cause a quantum object to appear in there, destabilizing the field, and it seemed to have worked.
I know that was a big thing with Simon Parks and the connecting consciousness.
Dangerous.
They were working diligently to stop that back many years ago.
But that was one of the things that they've used with 9/11 to go back all that time. That the random number generators, based on the number of people now watching it on television, those random number generators were changing. So they were using that as a mechanism of accessing the global consciousness. So if they're going to use that, we can use our global consciousness to de-exist those things or elements which are trying to use us and farm us and eat us.
How do you think that happens if a collective comes together, a group of people come together and they meditate to change the power of let's just say a collider or
this is the whole point of what
how are they able to steal the energy, Miles? How is it that these beings are able to steal the energy? Even when you've heard Duncan and you've heard Tim Refat, and I'm only referring to them because I remember some of the shows you did with them where he was going into the churches and doing his whatever, Tim Refat with his stones and taking the energy from all the people praising to God, and he was able to steal the energy.
Well, those are devices. Those churches are all devices, and the people the creatures who construct them and farmed us all to go into them were our farmers. They were getting people psychotronic energy feeding devices placed on the sacred air. I don't like using the term sacred. On the energy centers around the earth, the living earth.
So do you think all churches are that way? Do you think all churches?
All Catholic churches are.
Well, I'm sure.
The church is the kirk, and the kirk is the stone. And it was the stone that was there before the churches even were dreamt of. And then they used 5-sided geometry and 6-sided geometry and constructed those devices to farm us.
It's like the star forts.
Yeah, that's why.
What they were, there is a discontinuity in history going back to something around about 1850 in round figures. Something did a complete rewrite of history and took things over. And there are elements revealing that. So we have got a parasite who has conned us with our physics and our higher learning. And we need to, our requirement for that is to taste bad for it, so it withers and dies and falls off.
That's right. If we achieve a high enough vibration, it can't feed off of us. We no longer provided the loose energy of sexual misery programs.
That's over engineering the problem. I mean, a friend of mine was going to be ritually eaten by a bunch of these things, doing a ritual, and she just said, "Well, is that the best you can do?" And like anything on a plate that you don't want to eat, they just discarded it. She just walked out free. So
wow.
Don't follow their narrative. It's comedy's a great thing. Laughing at these people, they don't like it.
No, they hate it. That's mocking them and their supposed authority drives them nuts. Which
is why the comedians in this country, the Edinburgh Film Festival, the Fringe Festival, these kind of comedians are being very carefully manipulated, and there's been a lot of really good, funny people who've been just pushed aside.
Oh yeah, the best, brightest lights are going to get pushed aside by the more commercial, lamestream or sold out interests, who are then going to keep the true talent out of the spotlight, and then they're going to find the pawns. And I mean, that's Hollywood in a nutshell.
Well, there's another thing about Hollywood. I was saying that the Saturday Night Live, this might be an Australian Saturday Night Live. They've turned on the Democrats very heavily. The golden rule about show business, and people have got to. We're in show business. If you have got a good show, you feed the good show. If you're getting bums on seats and it's working. If it's not working, they cancel it. They just write, okay, we'll put this one on stage.
Right.
And they don't care. I mean, the way Hollywood works, and Ricky Gervais did that whole thing about, the terrible things about Hollywood and all that. That was a type of comedy which is as old as the hills when it comes to the Oscars. You know, when
he roasted them. Yeah, he roasted them. Yeah, he set them on fire. I mean, that was like, wow. He really roasted them.
It's good show business. And that's very important to understand.
Because at the end of the day, he's still a limited hangout.
The manager of the theater still gets his audience into his theater, or more correctly said, his theater, and the show goes on.
Right.
So be very careful about those forces.
Yeah, and as much as Ricky Gervais roasted them there at the Oscars, he is still limited hangout at the end of the day. I think is what you're getting at too, Miles.
Yeah, show business, and you don't. The show business is more like the laws of physics, because we're dealing with our perception. Our perception what we do. We look at things and make things happen. And they are so astute at manipulating that ability of ourselves.
Absolutely. I don't watch none of it. But I am going to ask this, Miles. What do you think about the P. Diddy stuff? So evidently he's got some stuff going on in the UK too.
Who? Sorry?
P. Diddy, John, whatever you want to call him.
Sean Combs, Puff Daddy. Sean Puff Daddy Combs.
I'm not across that.
Well, there's a guy here, a man, we'll call him a man. I definitely think he's got a reptilian soul and is being used.
Well, that's just because a reptilian doesn't make them bad people, you know.
No, let me finish. I'm not saying that. I have family that's reptilian, and I get that. I have friends that are reptilian. I'm talking about a particular type of reptilian that is dominating, controlling, uses rape as a way to harvest energy and take from, sodomizing other men to still break their.
It's a Draco. It's like a negative Draco reptilian trait.
Their base chakra to somehow they know how to do some kind of magic during the sex magic in order to drain the person's energy. And this guy, Puff Daddy Combs, is like the top tier of the hip hop industry, so to speak. He's the one that everybody comes to, not everybody, but in general, so many new artists will come to help get their foot in the door and begin their career, and then they end up acquiescing.
Justin Bieber was the most visible of these.
Yeah.
Miles, and Justin Bieber as well has come out recently with all his allegations, and actually he's made these allegations years ago, but they're finally coming to light.
Well, Miles, you know that. I mean, Max Spears did a show with you about the music industry and how they.
Yeah. I mean, that's. I just didn't know that. I don't know that particular.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's just one actor out of the whole industry.
In America right now, but they've recently found out that there's a lot of connection in the UK as well. So
absolutely,
I don't give it too much of my attention.
That's what Bob Osborne's digging up, and more of that. The whole British TV scene, the British theatre scene, the way the music industry works, it's all fully involved with all that.
Sure.
Television advertising is more satanic probably than the actual show, the way that they broadcast these things. And it's in fact, I know people in advertising who left because they said everything they're doing is black magic practically.
Sure.
Or literally, like John Todd was reporting on that too. You know, where in Hollywood, when they press the vinyl and they do the masters, they would sacrifice.
I'm sorry, Brian. I interrupted you. It was a lag. I thought you were finished talking. Go ahead. What would you say?
I was just saying there's a testimony of John Todd from years ago. He was talking about like these the 13 Illuminati families and how in Hollywood and in the music industry, whenever they would do like a new record and they went to press the vinyl, they would do a ritual, and that would often involve sacrifice. And that was like from that testimony came from decades ago. Arkeem Ra, a good friend, fellow presenter, he's also testified to similar.
Well, there are certain places, certain production houses in London.
Atlantic Records, Virgin Atlantic.
And you don't get a hit record unless your final cut goes through that production house. And that is why, going back to Radio Caroline, and the Montauk records, the records of music they have in Montauk, the way they could program the song, and then you'd play that, and then a whole pile of people would start ringing the phone. And so, and that's why they really didn't like people disarming the songs and the music when I was picking up what the DJ and Radio 1, the BBC Radio 1 Music Network, which they brought on to replace Caroline in 1967. I could pick up what the next record was because they're queuing that in their headphones. They're listening to the record, what the next record's going to be, to queue it up. So as they're doing that, that's going over the amplitude modulated radio network, which is why they kept Radio 1 on AM until about 1989. You've had it's AM again, the type of broadcasting and modulation of the way things work. There's a lot of radio amateurs and broadcast types who've sort of worked out how things changed when certain things started transmitting. And that's, I think on the old Montauk books, they're talking about mind window frequencies, which is why certain frequencies on the FM band were used for music broadcasting.
Well, because FM you can achieve stereo broadcasts.
FM frequency modulation.
AM you can't.
You
frequency
can do it with
versus
AM,
amplitude.
But let's not get into the technical side of it.
Yeah, you're going to know it better than I am. You're a freaking sound engineer.
Well, the whole point of the way that the FM works, it's Bessel functions, and where you can put spectral energy lines within. That's the modulation. That's your main frequency modulating. But you could put mathematical other signals there, which the main receiver won't pick up, but another decoder within that can pick it up. That's how color TV worked and all
Okay.
that sort of thing. But I think you could put 3 extra frequencies, sub signals.
So piggyback signals.
Yeah, within an FM mono broadcast.
That does a lot of destruction.
Yeah, well,
causing a lot of
they use that to
and
put the radio
foolishness.
data system in so that you got the title of the record comes up on your car radio.
So like subliminal messaging, for example.
Well, no, it's not subliminal, but it's another way of encoding within.
But the other side might use it. The other side might take what is just benign sound engineering, and they might use those piggyback frequencies. They might put in crazy messaging.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
for example.
erratic to our nervous system and causes a lot of thought forms that aren't
well,
normal to the human.
An antenna for FM radio. I'm not going to go into the frequency range, but it approximates the height of a person. So,
never heard of that.
There's all that, but then the whole thing got involved with putting MPEG encoding and JPEG encoding. That's the joint picture something or other.
Okay,
the joint
guys,
committee.
we have 20 more minutes.
The point is that what they do with a signal is that they, with these mathematical algorithms, what they do is they are right on the edge of human perception in terms of our eyes and what our ears hear. So the brain sees the obvious picture because that's at the edge of your cognitive perception. And the same goes for your hearing. So you will hear the dominant signal or see the dominant image on a digital picture, right? But that's a front load consciousness. That's what you see it on the consciousness barrier. But below your perception level, or in other ranges of the perception level, you can cognize other signals that they're putting in there. It's all about cognizance. But if you have a different cognition system, when you look at a picture or hear a sound, you'll hear something totally different. And talking about Win Keach, he had invented a way of putting other sounds within an analog signal so that you couldn't copy it. But once you copied it, there'd be a certain amount of distortion, which would bring that horrible screechy noise or whatever he had. Would you then hear that? Now, because he was working at the edge of the human curve of perception, he developed his records encoding system to deal with human cognitive systems. However, he soon found out within the board of directors who were reptilians, because the reptilians would have a different cognitive curve. And they picked all the shit that he put into the fucking signal. So he played his invention to the record company, and the humans thought, oh, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea. But then he could see that the humans who were actually reptilian their heads were being done in. At which point he felt that it was probably a good idea to just pull the idea completely before they.
I love Win.
Yeah,
maybe I can see if I can get Win to come on with us, Miles. That would be a great.
We're talking 30 years ago, or maybe 40 years ago. I mean,
I'm sorry.
I mean, he was in. I think he was in the NSA. He invented.
Well, he created the chips for the. If you don't know who we're talking about, Brian, Win Keach's genius.
The chip and pin. The number you put in to get money out of a cash machine. He invented that. Only 4 numbers, and it was unique, and it worked.
Yeah.
And the NSA
and they came after him and took him for a while, and he, worked out whatever he worked out, and then walked away from him.
They made him a deal he couldn't refuse.
Yeah. I don't think he'd ever compromised himself, Brian.
Yeah, I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying at the point where like the NSA's got you in there, like, their meeting lounge. It's
Well,
like,
anyway,
what are you
talking
going to
about
do?
far above space and time, this is a color book available in the United States for only $45,000. It's the one with all these pictures in color.
45,000 for the book. Is that what you just said? You're being a
45
smart.
pounds on
Oh,
Amazon. God, Jesus. I thought you'd learned by now. Anyway, because they're in color, can you see that?
Yeah.
The black and white version of this in Amazon. I mean, there's a young picture of John Lear in here, Learjet. As soon as you want to give up, oh God. Well, anyway, there it is. Great book. There's a John in there somewhere. The problem is that his co-author has only just died. Let me get some pictures which look better in color than. Well, this is the stuff he's just been pulling in 2023. Can you see that?
I don't know. Barely. I mean, it's hard to see. We can see it, but it's
Is that a craft? Is that a light craft in the sky, like a cloak
It's
craft?
about a mile wide or something long.
Oh wow, it's a big craft in the sky.
So, Miles, what conferences do you have coming up next year? Maybe.
Well, I've just been doing a lot of conferences for other people, and there's some very, very switched on people here. I was doing the TV coverage and edit and all that of a really bunch of really fantastic women in Stroud, which is Gloucester. They're called the Libertas, Project Libertas, and they've just finished that. There's a brilliant woman called Sandy Adams going around telling people all about the United Nations agenda.
Yeah, Sandy Adams, yes. Mm-hmm.
And the equivalent version of Sandy up in Canada is Sandy Glaze. That's another troublemaker up in Canada. But all this 15-minute city stuff, all this infrastructure is going in. And the idea that there's a horrendous health bill going through in Northern Ireland. And they're also, the politicians there are so stupid. They have.
I can't believe I saw something on YouTube where they have all these Muslims, and I don't have anything, y'all know I'm Arabic. I'm not Muslim. I don't practice any religion. I live my own life and make my own decisions, and I don't place it on.
Well, they're putting legislation.
But I think I live many mystical lives. But I will say this: what's happening in Ireland? So I have Irish, Scottish in me, and it saddens me to see.
Brian, you can't argue with that, okay?
Yeah. All these freaking Muslims over there taking over Ireland. It's like, I mean, what's going on, Miles?
It's a Kalergi plan. They're carrying out the
plan. And even putting that on the internet is almost you get that banned. The Kalergi plan is to destroy Western and all the so-called white races. But the problem is that the other races think, oh, well, it doesn't really matter about them, but we'll be okay. No, the Kalergi plan is about destroying all organic life on the planet. Get real, people.
Yeah.
That's right. By buying into any negative prejudices, we're just setting ourselves up to get burned.
Do you think in our lifetime,
it's basically, oh, that's happening to the other guy. I'm all right until you get the knock on the door.
What do you think about
wait to this?
What's happened in North Carolina and Florida and Tennessee, Miles? What's your thoughts about that?
That is the same rule book that they used to get access to oil. The history of crude oil, the history of the oil industry is horrendous. It's brutal, murderous, and evil.
But they're not trying to get a little oil in North Carolina.
If they find, well, if what's happened in North Carolina is a lot of people have just been wiped out and their houses and everything destroyed. The difference is in the days of oil exploration, if they wanted that oil and anybody so much as just sort of said, well, I don't think so, they would just go to a village or a small town, get everybody in the churches and burn them alive. That's a history of oil. So what they've done in North Carolina or wherever is the same basic principle. We're going to have that, get rid of the humans, just sweep them aside, kill the lot. And that's what these corporations and creatures do. There's no That's
What's
as old
the
as the
answer
hill.
for humanity? How do we come together? Those that are, willing to put the work in and collaborate and come
But
together.
what you do,
How do we start our own communities and
yeah,
change
yeah,
this?
but your own communities will be wiped out. The first thing you do is don't tell everybody on the bloody internet about what your plans are. You don't put it on any electronic medium. And this is the kind of behavior. If you look at what China is doing in the South China Sea near the Philippines, they're doing it the way it's always been done. You just get a boat, you intimidate some other boat, which is the principal fishing vessel, old little boats, and you don't kill them. You just bully the hell out of them, ram them, push them aside, and unless you come with your navy and blow the living hell out of that other country that's doing that, you lose, and that's how you expand your empire. And the Chinese are doing that right now. The United States and Great Britain and Europe have got themselves stuck in a little nichey, bloody, irrelevant war in Ukraine. And meanwhile, the rest of the world are just going to hit on the peripherals, like up in Alaska, and just go in and take over. And the United States and Western Europe will just be a bundle of paper thrown into a bin within a few years. And all our governing structures and infrastructure are doing this, and they're all against the countries that they're meant to be representing and helping, and all of them are treason and treacherous. And under the rules of the intelligence transfer thing, you've been given an opportunity, you screw up on that opportunity, and you're gone. Clean the petri dish. Nobody's got any God-given right to be in this world. If you don't shape up or in this universe and do something that's going to help life itself, you're gone. That's how the universe or any kind of life will deal with it. If they've got a part of something within their system which is going wrong, they'll just take resources from it.
So okay, I'm listening to everything you're saying, and of course my mind is,
this is nature, this is life, this is how life works.
So are you suggesting, we're not, how do we get to the place where we get rid of these tyrants in our
by starving them of what do they require, what do they need, and take it away from them? That's it.
Well, money.
Well, starve them of the loosh. Ultimately, it's a loosh, which you spoke about earlier, Ida. And the way we do that is by shifting the consciousness and frequency of humanity to the higher collectively. And the best way to do that is to get the truth out there.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yeah. But as long as we're still buying their products,
because Ida,
from their banks.
It's okay, because Ida, here's what you have to understand. The Russian Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, for example, 1917 in Moscow or St. Petersburg, people were still going to the Russian ballet, eating in the finest restaurants, drinking the finest teas, while everything was shifting and changing around them. Now, unfortunately, in that situation, they didn't have the alternative structures to access so quickly and immediately in the midst of World War I, transitioning later into post-World War I into World War II economy. With us, we do have the luxury. We have the internet. We have worldwide communications. We have the ability
to all that,
to organize.
They're listening to it all.
Of course they are, and it's okay. I don't care. They know who I am. I'm on all the right and wrong lists. It doesn't matter, because they can't stop all of us.
We know where you live.
They've known a long time.
But the point is, Bill, I'm not going to say things would be inflammatory or wish to encourage hostility. But somebody's got to live somewhere, and they got to have a door, and they still have to have water, and they still have to have food.
Yeah. At the end of the day, my analysis is, and I'm not trying to tempt anyone or anything like that, but these guys, they're going bankrupt. They're too busy trying to plug all the holes in their own ship to worry about all the Brian Tsengs and Idas, and Miles's, who, you've been around on this scene doing wonderful work, and you haven't let the fear stop you, in my opinion. So, that's what we have to do. What do you do when you get scared? Keep doing exactly what you're going to do
This
before
is
you
the
got
thing.
scared.
We can talk about it. That's what I was trying to
Well,
get
this
to,
is-
Brian. We've been talking about this since I first came
No,
across
you and I met 2 years ago. Okay. The movement just has been, Miles has been out there ringing the bells to let everyone even know it's there. But only now are we getting the tools and empowerment where everyone and their mom can have a podcast and they can start a clinic and have healing technologies and get access to people, the channelers, readers,
Well,
healers, and psychics.
That's what I've been doing at the weekend.
Mhm.
3 women putting together in a small church hall or nunnery or whatever it was, it's an excellent nunnery thing, and they're just having little discussions and meetings and together and just talking.
Exactly. And do that all over the world. There you go. That's our movement.
Well, okay, so Miles, I want to have you back on in a couple weeks with Brian and Dr. Amir. I will be sure to reach him and apologize. But I'll do my best to get through to him again, because I think introducing you and Dr. Amir would be lovely. He's there in the UK as well, and the guy is
probably being rained on. It's raining here.
Yeah, he's got
all that stuff that you people
super
produce.
Gifted, and I think you would appreciate the work he does. Similar to what Simon Parks does, but I think much.
Well, what does he do? I mean, what is his work?
Okay, so let me just share with you.
He's very psychically gifted, Miles. So he has the ability to look at you with your permission, scan you. He can find the etheric attachments. He can trace where they come from. He can help disable a lot of this negative technology that's put, especially on people who run in our circles, or people who are in these secret space programs. A lot of us really tend to have different attachments, so it's very helpul to have somebody who can get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, let me just read real quick. Hold on one second. So Dr. Amir Jahangiri,
Jahangiri,
the lecturer in computer science with a PhD in brain computer interfaces and postdoc in artificial intelligence from the University of Essex, United Kingdom. His research includes the design of novel linguistic BCI that recognizes imagined words in the human brain for operating and controlling a computer. He's also worked on developing new approaches to predictive modeling using inverse reinforcement learning by focusing on the structure of the reward function, also known as the AI brain. And it goes on.
That's amazing.
Dedicated over 30 years. I want you to meet him. So
I would be very keen to learn from him.
Yeah. So would you be willing to come back on?
Yeah, that would be fine. I'd like to hear what he has to say. There's a university here called UWE, the University of West England. That's in Bristol, and that has a huge AI part. And I sent a couple of emails to the people involved there. They didn't want to answer. What do they have to hide?
I want you back over here next year. You're coming back. You're gonna have new work, a new presentation, new information.
You guys put on a conference, and then they aim a goddamn hurricane straight at you afterwards. For God crying out loud!
Well, that's okay. We're gonna miss next year.
I had a feeling, Miles, I had a feeling that was going to happen too. I didn't realize how badly. I had a feeling in planning this year's conference that somehow we were going to get in and do the conference and avoid the nastiness, but then afterwards, don't be surprised. And boy, I was surprised.
Well, apart from ruining my interview schedule, because Daryl James was in Tampa.
Yeah, he's right there. Yeah,
and just because of some godforsaken hurricane, bit of rain, all the trees get blown down, and there's no electricity.
Ooh.
What kind of an excuse is that to miss one of my interviews?
Well, Christopher Jacobs mentioned to me, by the way, that he wants you on his show and has reached out to you a few times. Don't mean to put you on the spot,
and you should be, and you want to be. He's one of the more powerful psychics that I've ever.
Miles sat through his whole
He was
Oh,
at a
that's
conference.
I'm going to be on with Sean Bond. I wasn't sure if I was being on with this tonight. It's a special guest, Sean Bond and Bond. It says
No,
here.
it did that. I don't know why it's something wrong with the computer because that shouldn't be on there. I have you
There's
guys on.
something wrong with
That's
the
another show I'm
computer.
doing on Friday with Sean. But
I'm
listen,
sorry, I can't do that
Christopher
right now.
Jacobs would be so honored to have you on, Miles. So I'll remind you and send you a message.
Yeah,
It's
she'll
a happy-
remind me, folks. She will. She will remind me.
I will remind you. And
And,
I'll
and,
also
and
remind you
Adam
of
and Maria and everyone, thanks for watching. And hi to Zach Fisher from earlier.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for showing up and listening and having a listen. Miles is definitely one of our predecessors and a OG in the super soldier community. So we honor you. We
I'll have to look
love
that one
you
up.
and we thank you, Miles, for coming.
Well,
I
I've
think
just been doing a whole shoot this afternoon, a 4-camera shoot, all in Arabic, and I think I made more sense out of it than I do not in Arabic.
I love it.
That's about some place called Egypt, you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Miles, I will make sure everybody go to the Basis Project, subscribe, check out. He's got so much content there.
BasisTV.com. We're piling
Yes.
it all in there.
Yep. Go check out Miles or Facebook friend request him. He probably won't respond because he's a busy
And
man.
I hope
Maybe he will.
Mr. Pittsburgh picks up. What's his name?
Who?
John Whitberg.
Whitberg.
John Whitberg.
Yeah, I hope he picks up whatever happens.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait. Who's
I
this
think he's
now?
been given a conversation. Somebody's had a conversation with him.
Are you trying to reach John?
y'all
I can
talking
put
about?
it,
We were talking. We were going to have some kind of a thing, but it's all sort of.
I can put you in touch with John.
No, I've been in touch with him.
Okay. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
I've been doing a chat with Kerry Cassidy on her Substack page and just talking about Substack printed. It's a great site. We just talked about that. I got a phone call.
Maybe that's what I'll do is contact Carrie. I can text her and see if I can have you and Carrie and Brian on the show. And we could talk about what's really going on. Because Carrie's pissed. She's put all kinds of F-bombs out about, she's pissed off about this crap here going on in the UK. She's like, we need to get up us American, humanity here in the United States and take our freaking power back and say no more.
If you don't do that, you're lost.
We're lost. Yeah.
We have a complete collapse of the entire Western European political construct. And maybe Tony may have had something to do with that. Who knows?
Listen.
We have via Arkeem. He has I guess you call it a soul fragment from an alternate Earth timeline 4 years ahead of us, 2028, where it's much more positive. And in that timeline, they got rid of the Vatican early on. They didn't have a lot of this nastiness that we have here, and it's definitely possible. And real quick, what he said is in their timeline, they stood up to the Draco reptilians, and the Draco reptilians threatened total destruction of Earth, and it will enslave you all and kill you and eat you all. What happened is, in that timeline, apparently humanity, there was a war. Yeah, a lot of people died. But at the end of it, the Dracos basically said, good job, little humans, and like gave us the equivalent of a nookie. We had their respect. And then, we remained within their empire or whatever, but it's different than what we have now. So I'm just saying
Jane Shattuck is a fine lady I know, and her mother was visited by these beings from the other Earth, where everything's been screwed up there. So,
all right, guys, we got to wrap it up. I have a 4:00 appointment with my residential office. I'm going to be in contact, Miles, and we'll get you set up something maybe for the second week of November. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think I'm doing a couple of events then.
You do have some events, and I want to get you on a week that you're not bombarded with a bunch of stuff.
Good
luck. He's Miles Johnston.
All right, well, just
how many UFO fest you get invited to a year, Miles?
Plan A. What plan B?
The second Tuesday of November, and I'll look and tell you what that is. Now, I want to tell you now. So
Tuesday.
Yeah, it's going to be Tuesday, but contact. I mean,
Ada,
No.
you get your people to talk to my people, and we get Brian's people to talk to your people and our people, and we'll get this done. We'll get that.
I'm
sorted.
easy. I'm easy. I'm there. I'm there. You
The
count me in.
12th or the 19th of November, one of the two. Which do you
Have a clue.
prefer, Miles?
So just we'll see if it works that day.
What do you want to do, the 12th or the 19th?
12th.
Okay, good. I was happy you said that. So I'm just going to put it there, and then I'll send you an email.
That's a special
remind
code.
you and
It's
all
the
that.
11th of the 12th of the 24th.
Yeah, and I'll see if I can get Dr. Amir. Hopefully, maybe he might have been doing a reading.
Still can't do an
I
oral
didn't realize I
Schwarzenegger
didn't
voice.
send him the damn date. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Well, I've been trying to buy a car. By the way, they put me in a new car, and I haven't even financed it yet because they want me to buy the damn thing.
What?
And the interest rates right now are 5, 6.
And you're
5,
driving the car right now?
Yeah, they put me in the car.
That's
I haven't
not
signed
supposed to
anything.
not
They
supposed to
sent me
happen.
out with
And you
the
haven't even
loan.
signed anything, and you're driving the car off. What?
Brian, I
Okay.
think it's time for you to be quiet.
Yeah.
Be quiet. You big solar beard. Don't say.
Well,
Yeah.
I've been calling every day to find out whether the freaking insurance company sent the damn check, and they
Oh.
still haven't got it at the credit
Oh,
union
oh boy.
to pay
Okay.
the car off.
All right. Well, on that note, it's great.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
is that Tuesday, the 12th of November?
Yes.
Tuesday, the 12th of November, coming back on Cosmic Chronicles. Just put with Brian Tseng and Ida for Hot,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, I'm there.
we'll get Dr. Amir. I will talk to him, and
All right.
hopefully,
Same bad time, different bad day. Okay.
yeah. And we're
Got
going to have a great show, part 2. Everybody come join us that's listening in now. Come join us for part 2. I think this is, a lot of fun and a lot of information that's helpful. And also, I always say, do your own research. Don't just listen to what's being said. It's important.
Don't believe
to do your own
anything.
research.
Do your own research.
Yes. And go check
Don't
out
believe
Miles on the
anything.
basis. And Miles is going to present for us next year again. And by the way, full disclosure now, the fulldisclosurenow.org link is right there at the bottom of the banner. Go and buy your ticket. We're going to have an excellent conference next year. So we're going to continue growing this movement, growing in humanity. Those of us that are ready and willing to put in the work, we're going to create and manifest the life and the world that we want to live in. And we're going to do it together.
We are doing it.
We are doing it. That's right. We're going to continue doing it. And you're loved, Miles. So are you, Brian. You guys have a fantastic day. I'll be sure to put your links in the description.
Thanks very much, Ada, and you guys, Brian.
No.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Miles.
Miles. I know it's
Yep.
a little bit later over there. What's like 9 o'clock over there?
Yeah.
It's 9 o'clock and it's pouring with rain.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Well, get
And I have
yourself
a
some
quick
rest,
edit
and we'll
to
see you in
go.
a couple weeks. And I'm going to send you, I'm going to let Chris to reach out to you again, Christopher Jacobs. He really looks up to you and really
Yeah,
would love
okay.
to
Well,
have you
I
on
look
the
forward
show.
to do that. And if I don't reply, it just means I'm busy.
Oh, and
Okay.
Miles, if you when you do speak with Christopher, he is one of those talented channelers. And so any questions, any groups, beings, entities at higher nature that you want to speak to, just bear that in mind. It's an amazing opportunity.
Chris is the only person I would let read for me, him and Sean Bond, after I dealt with Simon Parks for almost a year, all those years ago when I finally got him out of my field.
How's Drago?
Drago's
He's good.
doing great.
He's
He's
good.
fine.
He didn't get
Yeah.
too flooded out on
Yeah.
his
What do you mean he didn't get too flooded out?
I don't know how bad he got flooded out. I think it came up on his property, but I don't think he had to like throw away everything in his house, thankfully.
Oh, they
I
always
think
throw
he's-
away everything in the house.
Because he's inland enough from St. Pete Beach inland into Tampa, closer to the airport area, I think.
Yeah.
That he may have been spared the worst of the storm surge.
Well,
That's
he's
what
got
took
a
up
pond
a lot
right
of
behind
Florida.
his house.
Yeah,
So
and it
that
took up a
pond
lot.
raised- yeah.
It
That
took a
was
lot
the
of the
biggest
water.
thing, but
Did
yeah.
did just to close? Did the storm go down in? Because the mainstream media was talking all about disaster, but did it get quiet? Did it?
It's the second one, Milton, was it. If you look at the weather radar readouts, as the eye with the big wall, the eye wall, hit the coast, yeah, there was storm surge, but
That's
then
my
it
alarm,
broke.
guys. I gotta
Yeah,
go.
it broke up and turned into a lot of smaller
Okay.
tornadoes. And Christopher will talk about that too. All right, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay,
Guys.
bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, guys. I need to
How do you turn this off?
end. Miles,
End show.
I'll be in touch with you. I'll call you later. You go to bed. I'll call you in the next couple days. I'll talk to you.